Welcome to the Virgin River Cafe Rewatch podcast.
Hi, I'm Gigi.
I'm Tracy.
And what are we drinking today, Tracy?
Today I went down the street to one of our local shops and they have a summer special. It's a cold brew s'mores. It has marshmallow cold foam on top and graham cracker little crumbles. It's summer here in July. I don't know when anybody's listening, but for us, in the moment, it is July and it's hot. And this is a really nice summer special. So it's really yummy. It's like the fourth time I've gotten it. It's just, I keep going back. I have to stop, but it's really good. What are you drinking?
Well, I'm a lover of teas as well as coffee, but our local chain is having a summer brew of different berries, and they're adding pearls that you find in those other teas
Like
that
boba?
have yes, like boba. But this one is filled with the whatever flavor you drink. So if you're getting raspberry, the little bobas are taste of raspberry. If you're getting strawberry, you know what that is. So I'm having the raspberry one.
Oh, I love raspberry.
Yes.
Yum. Well, that's good. That's yummy. Okay, well, let's get started.
Season 1, Episode 8, Into the Light.
This episode is one of my favorite. It says a storm causes a power outage in town and everybody gets together at Jack's bar. Mel grapples with her revelation. Preacher investigates Paige. Now, this is a really good episode. This one is one of my favorites. Do you remember? You remember this one?
Oh, yeah. I know the episode well. So it definitely has Mel having to rethink a lot of things in her life.
Oh, yeah. So we start off the episode with Mel, and this clearly is a memory. Because she's in the hospital and she's what we think is right after the accident, because the way she's dressed from previous flashbacks, that they're in the hospital, they're rushing someone into surgery or whatever, and she stops to look at the person. They're asking her all kinds of questions like what's his blood pressure, his weight, his age, does he have any allergies, blood type, all that. They're asking, and she's like blank. She's like, it's my husband. Like she can't even think. And then she sees that it's Jack, which of course is a big shock. And we see that it's a nightmare. And she wakes up in the B&B and she's just had a nightmare. So how interesting now that she's dreaming. It's like now the two worlds are, as they say, the two worlds are colliding, because now she's dreaming. She's trying to like bring the dead husband and the new possibility into focus together.
But it's interesting. How is it that she now has replaced Mark with Jack? It's such a depressing situation. I mean, if you're gonna dream about this man who you're having conflicting feelings for in a much better environment, but I guess it's for her, these two viewpoints of these two people that she cares about are now colliding, and now they're kind of mushed together.
Well, but keep in mind her greatest fear, because of everything that she has been through, and this will come out, I mean, she will say this later, but she's afraid of losing someone, because she has lost so many people in her life. It's like anytime she gets close to somebody, they die. And it's like,
I relate to that.
So it would almost fit that her biggest fear is, I think I might like this person, but he's just going to die. He's just going to leave me like everybody else does.
Yes.
I mean, it's sad. I mean, it's a really sad way to go about the world, but I mean, that's her frame of reference right now. That is sadness and loss. She doesn't really think, she gets happiness, but then it always gets taken away. It's hard for her to like.
Yeah, it's scary. It's letting your emotions.
Yeah. Having emotions, letting it be okay to have emotions. So she wakes up and she's having this nightmare, and it's thundering and it's lightning and it's this horrible storm, and she's beside herself. And because she lives at the B&B and it's probably kind of like a dorm. Joellen knocks on the door and walks in and makes sure that she's okay. And because she woke up for a nightmare, she lies and I heard you. And I stubbed my toe, because she didn't want to say, I had a nightmare. It's not going to go over well.
No, it's not something you want to share as a grown person with somebody.
She doesn't share much of anything.
Exactly. And especially with Joelle, and she doesn't know her very well.
Right.
So you make up something.
Exactly. And then she goes, oh, it's cold. And she goes, yeah, well, big storms happens a lot. We lose electricity. And she's like, well, when is it going to come back on? It's like, well, when they fix it, it's Virgin River. There's really no timeline in Virgin River.
Exactly. Well, it reminds me of back home in the islands when, the power goes,
And where are you from, Gigi? Because
I was born on the island of Trinidad and Tobago. And so at least once a week when I was living there, I mean, I didn't live there for very long, but the power would go out. And it's very common for everybody to go, okay, power's out. We'll wait for it to come back. And it's the same thing in Virgin River. The power's out.
You can do.
Everybody. Exactly. And so for them, at Virgin River, everybody gathers at Jack's.
Yes.
And because he has a generator.
Yes.
So everybody goes there. She tells her that she can come because that's where everybody meets.
Yeah. Joellen's like, me and Nick are going to go. And, would you like to join us? And she's like, I'm good. You're going to freeze here. It gets really cold. Like, that's why we all go there, because it gets really cold. And she's like, no, I'm put on some layers. I'll be fine. She's like, yeah, I love this house, but trust me, I'm trying to tell you, sister, it's gonna get cold. She's like, no. And she's like, well, you know where we are. We'll be there.
And I think the thing is, I don't think any of the buildings in this town are new. They are very old buildings.
It's a very old town. It seems like a very old town.
Right. So the fact that the insulation may not be the best.
Yeah.
So it's probably why she's telling her she may want to go to Jack's bar, who has a generator, and there's heat.
Yeah. And I mean, there's thunder. And I mean, it's one of those big storms. And we've seen that she's afraid of storms. I mean, she's obviously afraid of storms. So that's a scary thing. Just like a little kid.
Yeah. She's lying in bed and she's basically trying to convince herself that she's going to be okay.
Yeah. The breathing and the trying to think of positive thoughts.
She's trying to convince herself as a grown-up that I should get myself together and try to muster through this storm. We come back.
Jack's bar is packed. Like everybody in town there. The sewing ladies are there doing their thing. He's serving orange juice. People are playing pool. Doc and Hope are playing cards. Like that place is packed.
But this is so cool. I think,
I love it. I would love to live in a town like this, to be honest with you.
I mean, there's a baby stroller there with somebody with their baby. Everybody's doing their own thing. And it's just, everybody is just this is a safe environment for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And, and the fact that Jack has this for everybody just makes it so perfect. So anyway.
So Jack stops by and talks to Doc and Hope, and Doc had just gone fishing. And so, of course, Jack has to ask Jack. Jack's like, so did you catch anything? And Doc's like, well, yeah, I'm a catch and release kind of guy. And Hope's like, well, the only thing you caught was a chill. It's like, she just cannot give why this man sticks around.
You're in love with, you're in love with who you're in love with.
I know.
How these two are.
The two of them are the Bickersons. I swear. They just bicker, and even though they hate each other, they love each other too.
It's the banter that I love, because as much as she gives out, he gives back.
Oh yeah,
and,
for sure.
And it's a great back and forth.
I do love that.
So that's the great thing.
So he said it's not the thrill of the chase, it's not the size of the trophy, which is funny because he probably didn't catch anything, like she said, except for a chill.
Exactly.
Of course, Jack's like, yeah, okay, yeah. Apparently, she knows better that if, he's using the wrong kind of lures, and if he did things differently, that he would have more luck, but whatever. So they're playing cards, and she hears the sewing ladies just hacking it up over there, the gaggle of gossip queens. They couldn't stitch their way out of a paper bag.
Well, and people have to remember that the reason why she's not at the sewing table is because she's sort of kind of banned because of her way of dealing with playing games. Yes. And so now she's relegated to just hanging out with Doc.
Yes, and being on the outside, which is not a good place for her. She is the green monster is crawling on her back.
Right. She does not like to be on the outside. So, so now she's dealing with Mary, who I think is hysterical.
Okay.
Because
so this is kind of like where we get a little insight into Mariel. Now, Mariel St. Clair. I mean, just it's funny how Hope she goes, Mariel St. Clair. Who does she think she's fooling with a name like that?
And Doc, who is trying to be politically correct,
yes,
say actors change their names.
Yeah, well, she said, well, so do criminals. Like, what did that woman ever do to you? Oh, she moved here. It's like she's threatened by Mariel. Now, Mariel, she's younger than her because Hope is supposed to be in her 70s. And I believe that Mariel's character is, in the book, she's 55. But I think this character is probably late 50s. I think I don't know that they ever specifically said it, but I think they allude that she's younger, clearly, than the other women, but she's there. They never really explain. I mean, in the books, it's very different. She's a retired actress who's won all these awards and blah, blah, blah. In the show, Mariel is more of like, she moved there and she's taking a break from Hollywood. She goes back every once in a while to do a commercial or something. It's not like being an actress is not a huge part of who she is
anymore.
Not in the show. Yeah, it's just something she does. It's like a little side thing. You know, they never really say like what her career. I mean, maybe she was a big actress. They just don't really talk about it much. But
she's not fond of her, and also the fact is that part of it is Mariel likes to flirt.
Oh, Mariel is such a flirt with anybody. She's so funny about it. And half the time she doesn't even mean it, like when she's with Jack.
She doesn't mean anything by it. But she
just
flirts
a personality.
Single or you're married. She doesn't discriminate, as they say.
Doesn't matter.
If it's a good looking man.
Yeah. She'll share the love.
Exactly. And if she's purposely trying to piss off the wife or the girlfriend, she flirts even more.
Of course. I mean, she is an actress, so she kind of knows what she's doing. So we're back to Mel, back at the B&B, and she's has layers on and blankets, and every time it thunders and lightnings, she's just getting nervous. And the phone rings, and who would be calling her at this time of the morning?
Would be her big sister.
Yes, who saw the forecast and is worried. And so she shares that the power is out and it's cold, and I guess her sister took off to San Francisco for the weekend, and Bill's got the kids because they're dealing with possible divorce. And she asks her why she's not at Jack's bar when Mel tells her that everybody's there because he has a generator. And she's like, it's raining and I don't want to drive. There's a story there. There's a story. Yeah. And she doesn't want her to hang up because if she does, she's just going to call her back. So she shares with her sister that she told Jack about Mark. And now she's regretting it. Like, I mean, Joey feels like if she talks about it, it's probably better. It's part of moving on is to talk about it.
It's part of the healing process.
The healing, exactly.
But Mel isn't very good at sharing her feelings because this is still fairly fresh.
Yeah.
And do we remember how long she's been a widow? Has it been 2 years?
Oh, no,
3 years?
No. It's been, it's going to come up soon that it's almost a year. So.
Okay. So I couldn't remember how long. So
yeah, that'll come because I know you don't watch the episodes as often as I do. So those little details may escape you, but don't worry, I got you. Don't worry about it. Yeah, they will discuss literally the date. So it's coming.
Right. So the fact is that she's been a widow for a year. It's still fairly fresh. This is not something that happens and so the deal is that first year is still hard to manage and figure yourself out. So
and look at what she did. I mean, in that year she grieved and then she uprooted herself and started over. And she's been here 2 weeks, maybe 3, maybe. The timeline is
3 weeks is pushed if we're lucky.
Right. And so she tells her sister that she's not ready to get close to anyone, even though she told him. And I mean, I think just Jack, she feels close to him. She's been able to talk to him about things, and she says that she likes him. I mean, the fact that she's even thinking about someone else. I mean, even if it's a friend, and Joey's like, well, look, is it somebody you can trust? You know, I think it's okay. And now, like I said, she's regretting she's regretting it. And her sister's part of the healing process says, saying it out loud, it's going to help. It does. And that's where she says, I can't believe it's been almost a year and I'm still this messed up. And coming to terms with losing her husband is a process. And she's like, it's just one step at a time. And she's just so upset. She's like, I can't talk to you right now. I need to say goodbye. And she's like, I love you. And she can't even, she's so upset she can't even talk. She's like, ditto. She can't even get the words out that she loves her sister back. She just is so sad. And the storm is bad.
Is trying to be also supportive, but trying to tell her that this is part of the grieving set.
Yeah, this is the process, and you have to go through it. They lost their parents.
So they're back at the bar. Mm-hmm. So Jack is trying to get coffee, and Jack sees.
Oh yes, Hope. Hope is helping herself to coffee because that's what everyone does.
Right, and Jack catches her and says, is that decaf? And she says, it tastes like decaf. And he gives her that look like, yeah, hey, that's not decaf. Mary comes over.
Oh, yes, Mariel and her.
And she starts to flirt with Jack.
I love this. This is a really cute scene.
Exactly.
Because she asks if he has an older brother. Because,
But just the look on her face
I know.
Just. She has the she pouts the lips, she bats the eye, and the look on Hope's face.
Hope is just disgusted.
Exactly. Hope feels like she's about to throw up.
Like, I have to witness this, really? Are you serious?
And the thing is, she's flirting with the wrong guy because this is, for Hope, this is like her son.
Right.
So the fact is that Mary is literally flirting with her kid.
Yeah.
It's just,
and Mariel doesn't care. She's going to do what she's going to do. She's like, well,
exactly.
If you don't have any older brothers, only 4 sisters, I guess I'm just going to have a hot tea. And he was like, milk and sugar. And she's like, oh, you know what I like. Like, really? And then she turns around to Hope, knowing she's standing right behind her.
Oh, yeah. Hope is getting back what she can dish out the same way. Because we remember that scene with the uncomfortable dinner. This is the same thing where she's going to feel uncomfortable and she's purposely doing it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, that sort of thing. So she's now telling her, oh, I heard about your heart attack. Poor thing.
I was going to come see you, but I booked this big commercial in Los Angeles. She's like, oh, yes, I heard. Did you? Yes, you told everybody at Canasta. And then she's like, so happy you bounced back so quickly at your age. Right? It's like just the digs. And then Jack comes back with her tea, and I love this. She grabs him by the face, and she goes, those dimples. I'm like, yeah, we all love those dimples. And he's like, what? Why is she touching my face?
The thing is, she holds his face, and then she is looking directly at Hope to go, yes, I'm flirting with your boy, and what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the whole thing.
And then she's like, I can't stand that woman. And he's like, really? You hide it so well. Hope has banter with everyone. She does not discriminate.
Nope, she does not.
So it's thundering and it's lightning and it's pouring now Jack was he was going around pouring orange juice to everyone. So we have to assume that it's still probably morning. It's late morning, if anything.
I think it's still late morning because when you see the scene with Joey talking to her in Francisco area, you see it's pretty light outside.
Right. And so she's decided to head to the bar because she can walk there. It's not that far. Even from the B&B. I know it's farther from the B&B, but it's still a walking distance. So Mel gets her umbrella and she heads to the bar. And then as she's walking, we get another flashback. And it's her sitting in the hospital. It looks like she's waiting. She's got blood all over her. She's just, patiently pacing and crying and waiting for news. And then she sits down and stands up. It's like she's fidgeting and she doesn't even know what to do with herself. And the doctor comes out and looks at her and she stares at the doctor and the doctor stares at her and the doctor says, I'm very sorry. And so we have to assume that whatever happened
was not good news.
Not good news. And she's just standing there in the rain, just thinking about this. It's pouring. It is a big storm. And so she's just standing in the rain thinking about all of these things that have happened to her. And she decides to just keep walking to the bar. So she continues to walk to the bar, and it's sort of in slow motion, because I'm sure that's how she feels at this point in her life, that the world is in slow motion. Now she walks in, her umbrella is a mess. She looks like a drowned rat.
Yes, she does.
I mean, her hair is dripping, and everyone...
And this is what I love about this town. I don't know how everybody else got there, but the fact is that she's the last person to show up.
Yep.
And she looks like hell. And everybody in the bar, it's like that dream where you think you're naked in front of your class.
Yes, and everybody stops to stare at you.
Exactly. And this is the whole thing. And she walks in and everybody's looking at her. She was like, my umbrella broke. And she comes in, and Jack
comes from, he's behind the bar doing whatever Jack does, and he makes a beeline around the crowd to meet her as she's just walked in. And he's like, what? You're soaked. What happened? And she's like, well, I was going to ride out the storm at Joellen's. Why would you do that? Because she didn't want to get caught in the rain. He's like, well, you could have driven. And, well, I could have. And, well, why are you standing around in wet clothes? You're going to get a cold. And she's like, as a nurse, that's a medical misnomer. Even though, I don't know, I think most people think it's true that if you're cold when you're wet after the rain, and you could get a cold. But apparently medical people say that that's not true.
That's true.
Whatever.
Yes.
And he's like, okay, fine. Well, you're going to be mighty uncomfortable then.
And so he invites for her to take her upstairs, put her clothes in the dryer, and he'll give her something dry for her in the meantime. So she is now going to be wearing Jack's clothes. Ooh.
Yeah, I know. So they go upstairs. Now, she's never seen upstairs. She walks in, and this is his, where he lives, stays. We don't know, really. We've got baseball memorabilia. We've got fishing memorabilia things and fishing rods and books on his bedside table. There's like 5-6 books on his bedside table. He's digging around in the clothes, and he's like, well, they're a little big for you, but I think it'll work. And she's like, okay, thanks. And he's like, he said there's towels down the hall in the bathroom, and I don't know, like, just flip the switch off when you're done. And she's like, wait, Jack? She feels really awkward about the night before, because if you remember, that's when she had taken her ring off and he showed up, and she told him that her husband was dead. She didn't say much more, we assume, because she starts share now a little bit.
So she decides that she just wanted to feel like she needed to explain. And Jack being so Jack, which is so typical.
I know. He's such a beautiful man.
I know. He says, do you want to explain? And she says, no. And he's like, okay. And
then don't.
Yeah. Basically, he's not fazed by it because he feels like when she's ready to tell him, she'll tell him. But in the meantime, he's not going to pry, because there are enough people in this town who pry.
He lets it go. He's fine with it. He doesn't mind. How many conversations have they had where she has told him personal things about her? He knows about her mom who died. So, I mean, clearly she's got a lot of baggage, and feels like that was a place where she could share whatever she wanted to share. But if she doesn't want to talk about it, it's fine. Like, he's like, I mean, your business is your business.
Yeah, and he's very good at that.
Yeah.
As I said.
Very empathetic. Very empathetic.
Yeah. And he likes giving people the space they need.
Unlike Hope.
Unlike Hope and a lot of other people in this town. Yeah. He's just really good at that, which is what I think is what she needs, because he feels like when she's ready to tell him, she'll tell him.
He said, just come down when you're dry, and I'll save you a spot at the bar, which is Jack. I mean, that's just, he's just so empathy. I mean, so now we've got Preacher. He's in the office, and he's not staring. He found Paige's driver's license, remember, in the car?
That's right. So he picked it up off of the floor, and now he's doing a search. And he's coming up with some very interesting information.
So he's hiding out in the office. And Connie, so now we're back out in the main dining room. And Connie comes over and tries to talk to Hope. And Hope is not having it. She's like, can you tell Connie that I don't want to talk to her? And of course, Doc's like, I don't even want to get involved. Don't even. She comes over to make amends. And she's like, Canasta really riles people up, and I'm so sorry. She's like, I'm trying to get back to my game. And Doc's
she's
trying. He's like, come on.
Yeah, be civilized, And you know how bullheaded she can be.
Yes.
And so now Connie's saying they're making a quilt for Lily and baby Chloe.
No one cross stitches as good as Hope. She's trying to build her up. She's trying to butter her up a little bit.
And she wants her to join them. And Hope, I swear to God, Hope is her own worst enemy.
I know.
Oh my God.
She really is.
And she was like, well, let me come see. I know you guys will make a big mess of this on your hands. And she wants to make sure that the quilt is perfect for Lily and Chloe.
Yes. So they want her to be a part of it, which is cool.
Yes. Well, the thing about it is these women have known each other for a long time. So they've been
some for 20 plus years. Absolutely.
Right. So they've been through a lot. So they know which buttons to press.
Oh, yes.
You know what? They know what to say to Hope to get her to come back to the fold, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
So
Connie's like, well, please come back and sit with him. Hope says to Connie, well, if I don't, you'll just have a giant mess on your hands. Like, they just could not finish this blanket without her. Like, it would just not be done correctly.
Yes, that's
and Doc is the whatever. She's, oh, it would mean so much to Lily. Now Hope takes this and runs with it. Can you believe her? She's practically groveling. It's like, I don't know that I would call that groveling. And now she makes him go with her because she needs a wingman, just in case. Like, I don't deserve this. This is ridiculous. But you know what? He goes. So
yes, he does.
Whatever. He's on the leash. Now,
oh, and this is my favorite line.
I know.
So Mel comes back down to the bar and he says, I've never seen my clothes look so good.
Just as he's walking by her, to do what he's doing behind the bar. And he saved her a seat right on the corner, right on the end. And it's like, oh, Miss LA. It's like, what? The traffic, the smog. It's like, no, the weather. It's, what? Jack's like, you don't like the rain and the storm? She's like, no. No. He's like, you? And she's like, yes, it's peaceful. She's like, no, it's wet and noisy. I mean, okay, to be fair, before the last 2 years, it hardly ever rained.
Ever. That's true.
I mean, I can honestly remember in the month of May, it rained one year and it did not rain again. We had for 5 minutes it rained, and the only reason I know this specifically is because it just never happened. It was like in September, like the middle of September, it rained for like 5 minutes, and it didn't rain again until after Christmas. So we went from May until after Christmas, 1 5-minute storm.
I always say there are generations of children who are born here in California. It's like never seeing snow. It's like they grew up in a time where the drought was so bad that they have no concept of what rain is unless they go to another state.
Somewhere else. Other part of the state, even. But here, where I live in Southern California, it never rained. It never rained. Now, the last 2 years, we can't say that. It's been raining like crazy all the time. It hasn't rained in a little bit, gotta say, knock wood. Hopefully we get some. But it's crazy.
We definitely got our share of rain in the last couple of years. And it's definitely helped with the droughts and, and our reserve. And so that's a good thing.
But so this is Northern California. This is like even more, technically more north of where you live.
Yeah.
How far away would you say Humboldt County is from you?
Oh, that's a good 2-hour drive from where I am. But the thing about it is they may not get rain, but the weather's cool.
And they have the mountains, so the storms get caught there, and it's just greener.
They have a lot of vegetation. So they have morning dew, which helps with the plants and all that sort of stuff.
And they're higher up the elevation. I mean, it's just a different climate.
Right, exactly. So while they may have cooler weather, where I am here in closer to San Jose, San Francisco,
not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah, and it's hotter than Hades down here in Southern California. So,
well, same here. I mean, I think between the two of us where we are right now, the weather's been just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she comes and she takes a seat at the bar,
and she's questioning, like, what
exactly?
People just come and I don't understand. People just come and hang out here until the storm's over, like.
Yeah, and she's baffled by that. She's absolutely baffled. And she says, well, when it's done, people go back, and if the power isn't back, they'll come back in the morning.
I mean, that's the reason people are there, because their power is out. Everyone kind of congregates together. He's got a generator. So there's food, there's, there's drinks, there's the community, people are hanging out, playing cards, whatever. And it's better than being stuck at home by yourself in the cold.
Right, exactly. And if I've had a choice between staying at home in a cold place and Preacher's delightful cooking, I'm finding myself where Preacher is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So now Connie comes over to the bar and she says, Jack,
refilling her coffee, and then
and she has a sort of a Southern accent.
Yes.
Mixed with a Northern California accent. It's so I assume that she's not from Northern California, but she came from the South and moved here. And depending on what happens, you can hear the accent. So she's asking for a slice of apple pie.
Yes, please and thank you.
And thank you.
She definitely has a Southern hospitality kind of.
Oh, yes, she definitely has. And in the meantime, Preacher is in the office.
Still
doing a search on Paige. And at that same time, Jack walks into the office, kind of asks him, hey, man, what are you doing? We got a full house. So he has to stop his search.
Now, while he was searching, he kept coming up with some very interesting things like wanted suspects, and he gets interrupted. He asks Preacher, like, what have you been doing? I'm looking at invoices, and he was like, dude, we got a full house. Like, I'm out of apple pie. Like, you need to get out here. You're supposed to be in the kitchen. So they both go back into the kitchen, and while they're in the kitchen, while Jack's getting her apple pie and refilling the coffee, Connie has to say to Mel, because Connie just does not know how to keep her thoughts to herself. My God. She's like, I didn't even think you owned any flannel. Well, maybe some sheets. And she's like, oh, no, this is Jack's. Now, she knows for a fact, everyone knows, they watched her walk in. They watched her walk in soaking wet. But she has to, like, make eyes about it. Like,
of course she does. Of course she does, because she wants to hit the point home.
Like, oh, you're in Jack's clothes. Oh,
exactly.
Aren't you now? So Jack comes back with the apple pie, and he was like, here you go, a la mode, and it's on the house.
And the coffee.
And he refilled the coffee, and he's like, oh, such a big heart. If you ask me, Charmaine's a damn fool to let a guy like you get away. Now, the look that Jack and Mel give each other, it's like, okay, one, nobody knew that, but it's Virgin River. Give the ladies 5 minutes. The gossip is fast. We already know.
And the internet is slow.
And nobody knew, but now they know.
But the funny part is when she says, then again, I always thought she was a little too big for her britches.
Yes.
Britches is so a Southern word.
Yes, again, it is. That whole saying is very Southern.
That's not a California sentence. Take my word for it. It's like she's basically saying, she's an uppity up, and she's, and then she takes her coffee and her pie.
It's like she leaves that and walks away. It's like she threw that bomb down and walked away.
She just left it hanging in the air. And so now...
And Mel does not back away from anything. No. She's like, so what happened?
And he says, Charmin decided not to see me anymore. Now this is...
Yeah, she's sorry. She's sorry. Inside, maybe sorry, not sorry. I don't know. She's not really... She's sorry. Sorry for Charmaine, but not sorry for her.
Exactly.
Well, it's obviously for the best, he says, because we want different things, right? I mean, they had already established when they got stuck out
being held hostage that, this is how things were going to go. So, and Preacher shouts, order up! And that gives them a distraction.
Gotta get that. Excuse me.
Exactly. That gives them a chance to separate. In the meantime, Bert walks into the bar. Again, somebody I love.
Everyone loves Bert. Bert's like a big teddy bear.
Oh, he's just so delightful. I love Bert. So he walks in and he makes a comment. It's raining cats, dogs, and maybe some cows.
Yeah, because it's coming down.
Exactly.
And of course, everybody wants to know what's Preacher cooking. Preacher's making some jerk chicken or whatever. And he was like, oh, it sounds really good. And then Joellen sees Mel at the bar. And she's like, oh, honey, you finally made it. She says, you were right. My room was freezing. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. As the thunder and the lightning and everything, Jack offers Bert a beer. And he was like, yeah, I'm done for the day. Something like he broke an axle in his truck. getting somebody out, and so his buddy's going to cover. So he's good. He can stay the rest of the day and just sit back and relax. He gets a beer. He's going to get him something to eat. And Mel's like, wait a minute, Bert. I heard him talk about a tow truck. It's like, I'm Mel Monroe. I'm Bert Gordon. You're the tow truck driver. And it's so cute. He gets so excited. He's like, well, yeah, that's me. Like, he's so excited. He's so cute. And she
said, you towed my car when I first came here. And she describes the car. And then
he remembers. Oh,
because who has a BMW, a red BMW out there because I'm sure everybody's driving some sort of truck.
Right.
You know what?
Four-wheel drive or whatever.
A red BMW is not the kind of car that most people drive out in that part of the place.
Exactly.
And he says,
big shot nurse from LA. And she's like, well, I don't know about big shot, but yes, I'm a nurse. It's true.
So Jack brings him some jerk chicken or whatever it is he's having. And then she noticed his hand. And he's like, oh, it's okay.
And of course, Jack and Mel both look at each other. Like, Jack's looking at it. Mel's looking at it. They're looking at each other. They're looking at the hand.
And she's like, it looks pretty bad. And
it's fine.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. Even someone who is taking courses and nursing courses and stuff like that for my, as a birthing doula.
Right.
And, and just looking at the color of his hand.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Something's not right.
It's not good. The makeuping is very good for this.
Yes.
And they're like, so he tells, and the thing about it is this happened a few days ago.
Yeah.
Where he was rigging up an abandoned vehicle and it fell on his hand. It
got caught or something. Yeah.
You're right. And it's like, he's sort of thinking, oh, it's going to get better. And it
like he always does. He always bounces back and.
Right. And so she wants to check him out and she says, oh, it's fine. And, a couple of beers, I'll be A-okay. And Mel is not letting this go. Again.
No. He's like, but you're off the clock. And she kind of gives him a look like, we're all kind of just stranded here doing a whole lot of nothing, waiting for the rain to stop. Like, for real?
Yeah. So she's just like, okay, I want to check it out to make sure it's not broken. So she comes over and she sits closer to him and she checks it out.
And did you notice Doc right there when this was going on? He looks up from his newspaper and like, oh, what's going on over there?
Yeah. Right, exactly. It's because God forbid some, check on one of his patients.
He's still very skeptical about Mel.
Oh, yeah. He's still, even though she knows she's qualified. So now he comes over and checks and he.
Well, Mel's like, well, I believe he, his broken his fourth metacarpal and possibly sprained his wrist. And Doc's like, oh, let me take a look at that. Let me take a look at that. And he's like, I agree with Mel's diagnosis. And she's kind of thanks. Yeah, like I already know what I'm doing, but thank you.
Yeah. It's like he's still not sure. And the thing about it, between Lily and the whole thing with Hope, you would think by now he would be more comfortable with her, but he's still sketchy.
No, because it's his business, it's his medical practice, and he values it a lot. So he's going to be very, very careful with his patients because that's his life. He told her that. So he calls it boxer's fracture. So we asked him if he went a couple rounds with a bear, and he is like, no, it was a Chevy. So he definitely will need an X-ray, but then we find out that he doesn't want to get an X-ray because he doesn't have insurance. Mel's like, but what's the problem? So no health insurance means it's too expensive and he can't afford it. And so Doc diagnoses it. Well, look, it's a clean break. There's no this and that. I think we can fix it. We can put the bones back together at the clinic.
Yeah.
And Bert's like, oh, really? It's such a big fuss. And it's like, no, it's fine. He prepared just in case. I mean, he has the clinic ready because, it's a storm. People could get in an accident. Somebody could fall and slip, so the clinic is ready. Now, one thing Mel says is, well, if we don't take care of this now, there's a possibility that it could heal wrong and then you could lose some function in your hand and with his job, and he can't afford that. So,
exactly.
So he agrees reluctantly, but he agrees. And then Doc wants Mel to go with him. So now the three of them are going to have to make their way over to the clinic. Now, Jack steps in and pulls Doc aside. And he was like, Doc, isn't that your second whiskey? And he was like, well, yes, it is. I mean, it is Sunday, so we find out that it's Sunday. This is Sunday morning. Everybody's just, fortunately, no one has to be at work, I guess, or whatever. And he was like, well, yes. And then he kind of thinks, oh, yeah, because driving in the rain, in a bad storm, after 2 whiskeys might not be the best thing. God forbid he's a little tipsy. He's an older gentleman. And Jack, who is like the secret mayor of town, more sometimes than Hope, is always looking out for everybody, wants to make sure he's okay. And he's like, and also in a way, it's kind of like to give Mel a little something. Mel can take care of this. Let her do this. No problem. She can handle it. And reluctantly, Doc agrees.
He's now giving the A-OK from Mel to do it. Reluctantly, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
But he's going to do it. But he does, if you notice, he doesn't give an explanation to Mel or to Bert as to why he's not coming. He basically
says very
says,
stealthily.
Right. He says, I think you can handle this. And she kind of looks at him kind of like, okay, I'm going to go with that.
But Jack also says, because he doesn't want to make Doc feel bad, he's like, you have to stay here in case something happens. We need you here. So Doc has to make sure, first of all, that Mel has actually done this procedure before. And she's like, yes, several. And then he has to go through it with her to make sure she knows what to do. Like, he kind of likes how to splint it and, confirming that she's going to do the right thing. And then, of course, he has to say, and let me know, like, report back to me when you're done. So it's like, are you really going to let me do this? Or are you just going to, like, hound me the whole time? So she doesn't have her car. And Jack, who is always so happy to help, offers to drive them.
Again, we have a bar full of people.
Well, Preacher's out of the office now, so I think things will be okay.
Okay.
Right?
So, in Preacher and the servers, I guess
but it's in this town, everyone jumps in because when people are out doing whatever they need to do, Hope's jumped behind the bar, even Charmaine's jumped behind the bar before. People just jump in when it's neat. It's just kind of the way things are around there.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like
it'll get handled. It'll get handled.
Right. So they get to the clinic. Mel tells Bert to sit on the table while she washes her hands and she wears her gloves.
And he's just like, so you're going to push my bone back to, like, he's nervous. He's like, what the heck are you going to do to me? And she's like, I'm going to give you some pain medicine and hopefully we can avoid having some type of surgery. And he was like, oh, there's no way anybody's ever cutting into me. There's just, so this is the only way we're going to fix it. So okay, fine.
Yeah. He says, I'm never going to let anybody slice and dice her.
Right.
And now she gives him a shot in his hand and you could see he's flinching.
Yes.
And then it dawns on him at this point that he starts to apologize for the night, the kidnapping.
Yeah, because he feels like it was his fault that he didn't make it to them in time,
right?
Or go look for them when they broke down and when the pot camp people came to get them,
right?
And he just feels horrible.
Yeah, he feels very bad. And Mel is trying to convince him that it's not his fault. It's just things happen the way
she's like, no, it's fine. And when it all turned out fine, I should have gotten there sooner. I should have called the bar. I should have thought somebody picked you up. And she's like, Bert, it's fine. Really, we're good. We're fine. He's like, no. And even Jack jumps in. He's like, Bert, it's okay. You couldn't have known. So he just feels really bad.
So we're back at the bar now. There are people playing pool and still.
The ladies are sitting around the sewing circle.
The sewing circle consists of 5 women.
Mm-hmm. We have Muriel, Connie, Hope,
and Ricky's grandmother's name.
Yes, Liddy, and then Joellen from the B&B.
Right, Joellen. And so they're sitting there having their conversation,
and they're talking about how Lily is doing so much better, that she's seeing that therapist in Clear River, and Chloe's getting big, and they all seem to be getting along really well.
Yeah. And of course now, Marion has to throw a little
She's got to throw a dig at Hope.
About her stitching.
Why did she choose this stitch instead of that stitch? And she was like, oh, well, this one's cleaner. And she was like, knowing that stitch she's doing is going to take a long time. She goes, yeah, well, we can give her Chloe her blanket on her 16th birthday. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to get up and get something to drink. And Hope.
Oh yes,
oh my
this
God.
is where we throw back the day. And she says, didn't you do a commercial for dry mouth?
It was like incontinence pills, and one of the side effects was dry mouth. She goes, yeah, wasn't that thing you were shilling in your commercial? And she goes, yeah, Doc, do you need anything while I'm up?
I love the dick.
Oh my God. And she's like, why are you bugging her? And she's like, I'm just concerned about her health. Right. So Muriel goes to the bar, and while she's gone, Ricky comes over to Hope, and he looks nervous and uncomfortable, and just, he's a mess. He's such a shy kid.
He is. And he hasn't quite found himself yet. You know what I mean?
It'll take a couple seasons, but he will find himself.
Right. And so he's a teenager who is just, so he wants to tell her something. And
she's frustrated. Spit it out, son.
Yeah. And she says, somebody outside wants to see you. And she's like, well, tell him to come in. And he's like, well, they want you to come out. And the thing about it is, I don't blame her. It's pouring rain outside. Why am I supposed to go out there? And she says it's really important. So she sighs and she gets herself up and she's like,
why do I have to do everything in this town?
So in the meantime, she gets her jacket, which is right next to Doc. And as she's getting her jacket, who slips in?
Oh my gosh, Muriel sits in the seat and she's like, my seat's not even cold. Oh, is that a new cologne, Doc? You sure smell good. And he was like, no, what's the name of it?
And he says, soap.
Like, he's not even falling for her shenanigans.
No, but I think that about it is, I think he does want to get involved with what's going on between her.
To mess with? Oh my God. If Hope, to deal with Hope because of that would be bad.
Yeah, exactly. So he's going to stay like Switzerland, neutral.
So much better to be that way.
Exactly. So now we see Hope outside in the rain.
In the back. She went in the back of the bar, and there's this SUV parked back there. And she gets in.
And who is sitting in the car? None other than Charmaine. And it's just like, really?
And she's like, what is all the secrecy? She's like, Jack and I broke up. And she goes, oh, honey, there's no secret. Everyone in town is talking about that. Exactly why she didn't want to go in the bar. I mean, seriously. She goes, look, I want to give him his stuff back. She goes, well, what's stopping you? She's like, look, I don't want to see him. I don't want to see anybody. Can I just give it to you and you give it to him and then I don't have to deal with it? It's too hard for her to have his stuff around. There's a letter inside, and of course, Hope, she's like, I don't want to get in the middle of this. I don't want to be involved, and just wants to give her some advice to just talk to Jack. And she's like, no, it would be easier. Just give him the box, give him the letter. I know we haven't been close. Like, they're kind of sworn enemies. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, they are not kinda. They are.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, Hope is blaming her. I mean, yes, apparently she looks a lot like her mother, but it's not her fault. I mean, she didn't have anything to do with it. She was probably 15 when it happened.
Right. And the thing about it, because even when she said to her and they sat down and had that little chit chat, she basically said, I'm not her.
Yeah. I do think that Hope and her, whatever relationship they have, changed at that point, because I think prior to that, almost looked at her as being her mother. And after that conversation where it kind of finally, I mean, Hope, I think this whole time period for her, things are changing about what happened back then. And I feel like that she sort of can accept the fact that Charmaine is not her mother, that she's been way too hard on this poor woman her whole life, and that maybe she can let up and I don't know. I feel like things are better.
And I feel bad for Charmaine because it's not your fault who you resemble. You know what I mean? You are a product of your parents. And even if your parents screw up, that's not a reflection on you. That's them.
I know. But unfortunately, people tend to not remember that.
I understand that. So anyway, she
picked Hope.
Feels that she picked Hope to take this stuff into.
She says she figured she'd know what she was going through. I mean, that's pretty ballsy to say, but okay.
I figured that's a lot to throw into Hope's face at that point, because Hope could have basically said, no, you do your own thing, but she didn't.
Right. And she's like, I can't have his stuff lying around. It's too hard. And Hope just does not want to be involved. I mean, as much as she's a nosy body, when it comes to Jack, she's very cautious. in a way.
Yeah.
And so she's like, every instinct
she's
in my body.
overprotective.
She just doesn't want anything to happen to Jack. I mean, granted, she doesn't think that Charmaine was good for him, but she also doesn't want to get involved with whatever this is.
But as we stated earlier, she sees Jack as her son, like an adopted son. And so that's the sort of thing where she doesn't want to do anything that will hamper that relationship.
Right.
So anyway, so
but
she
Hope takes the box. It's so cute, actually, that when she's getting out of the car, she's like, be careful out there. And Charmaine actually grabs her hood and puts it over her head as she's getting out. I mean, it's like Charmaine, honestly, I feel so bad. Her character is just, she's been through a lot. I feel bad for her. She can't help who she loves.
I get that. But we'll find out later that this is not a woman to mess with either.
Right.
So,
right now I feel bad for her, but my thoughts and feelings will change.
Yes.
Sorry, Charmaine.
Yes, it's short-lived. Let's put it that. So, and it's so typical. There's a scene where Pope walks into the bar holding the box, and there's a picture of a deer, a huge deer, a photo of a deer. It's so typical of a place that's far back in the woods, where even Joey had commented on the decor when she first came.
Yes.
Place
full of dead animal heads. It's like,
and then there's this huge, massive picture of a deer just looking very stout.
Yeah.
Anyway, so didn't mean to go off.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So Doc she sits down with this box, puts it on the seat, and Doc's like, "What was that all about?" And she's like, "You don't even want to know." Now, just at this point,
the person I hate with much abundance.
Yes.
This character rubs me the wrong way.
Well, I think he rubs everybody the wrong way.
Yeah.
So in walked Calvin. He was the head of the pot farm, the one that Mel took care of his leg when he got shot. And now he walks with a limp and a cane. And he walks in the bar, and Preacher stops him 10 feet in the bar. And he's like, whoa, and he's like, look, the road's washed out, Preacher. I got to ride out the storm. And he goes, well, why don't you do that in your car? And he's like, look, I'm not here to cause any trouble. As soon as the road is open, I'm out of here. Swear. Just need a drink. It's cold out there. And now Brady, who's the bad boy of the crew, is right there behind the bar, like, what can I get you? But looking at Preacher like, is it okay? And he's like, yeah, bring him a bourbon and a check, because he's not staying. So he's like, okay. So he gets him a drink, and Calvin pulls out a wad of bills that catches Brady's eye.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, keep the glass full, son. Yeah. Okay. And gives him a nod, takes the money. You bet. Brady said, look at that wad of money that he has. And Preacher responds, dirty money.
Dirty money, yeah.
Because Preacher knows what this guy's into. But Brady doesn't. Brady's new to town. Well, he's back. But he isn't aware of what shenanigans go on over there at the pot camp. So now we're back at the clinic.
Mel has patched up Bert's arm, and she gives him some meds. And she says, I still want you to go to the river and get an x-ray. And he says, no can do. And Jack chimes in and says, I think Doc can figure something.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Doc has some...
I'm sure Doc will get him an x-ray and it'll be fine because it's Doc.
Right. And then he says to her, thank you so much. Look forward to getting a cobbler.
A cobbler's coming your way. Like, that's how they pay each other.
But that's the thing. It's so typical of that type of, even though this is a fully paid, people come and they pay and whatever else.
They have insurance. People have insurance and people do pay. But there are some people once in a while.
You still have that small town feel where people's for gratitude, they may pay, but they also double pay by bringing you food and things like that. So Bert's contribution is his wife's cobbler.
Oh, wait till I tell Shirley. She'll be so happy that this got fixed, and there'll be a cobbler coming your way, which is very sweet.
It is very sweet.
So as he's calling Shirley to tell her the news that he's been repaired and he will be home soon because they said they'd drop him off, Jack pulls Mel aside and says, since we're already out, I've got something I want to show you. And she is still not loving the whole storm thing. She's not loving being out in the rain. She's like, okay, but I'm not comfortable driving around in the rain. And he's like, well, it's fine. I have a 4-wheel drive. It's not far. I think you're gonna like it. He smiles at her.
I know.
Like, come on.
They both have dimples.
They do. I know. Whenever they have a natural child, that child better be like swimming in dimples because Seriously. So she gives him a look like, I should say no, but I'm not going to.
It's hard to say no to
right?
somebody.
How do you say no to that?
Exactly. And he's got the dimples and, he smiles at her.
And it wants to do, and every time that he's said, let me do something for you, let me show you something, let me take you some, it's always been a positive thing.
Yeah.
It's like, he's not going to steer her wrong. I mean, last time she was feeling bad, he took her to an arcade.
Yes.
Okay, so we're back at the bar, and Doc is trying to find out what is going on. Like, who did you talk to? What is this box about? And she's like, well, as nosy as I am, he's like, fine, you know what? I don't care. Don't tell me. She can't even hold it.
She holds it together, and she says, it's Charmaine. Yes.
So what's in the box? And she's like, Jack's things. He's like, she doesn't want to see him face to face. Well, then just give Jack the box. It's not that simple. She's like, Vernon. She grabs the box. She's like, come here. And he's like, oh God, it couldn't be simple. It couldn't be put the box on the desk, walk out, shut the door. No. So they go in the office, he shuts the door, and she's like, what if something bad is in the box? It's like, it's Jack's business. There's a letter. Oh, sweet. So the letter is for Jack, not you. So
and
she's
she opens the box.
Yep.
And takes the letter out.
And she's holding it up and she's looking at it. She's like, should I open it? He's like, you should not.
Yeah,
ethical boundary.
And Vernon is trying everything to tell her, do not open that box.
Well, he also reminds her that if she had not opened mail that was his, she would not have found out about Charmaine's mother and him.
And yes.
Mm-hmm.
And she's saying, so knowing you cheated on me would have been acceptable solution for you? And he's like, no, I would have told you, but in my own good time.
Not this massive mess that turned out.
Right, exactly. And so now this is the same thing. She's found herself in a situation where there's this letter from Charmaine to Jack, and it's for Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And then she turns around and she says, it's not sealed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
I know. And it's too late. She's opened it. And he's standing there. He's like, what did it say? And she's like, oh my gosh. Okay, we got to go. We just have to go. And he's like,
what happened? And she leaves him stranded there. So she reads it and now decides, I really shouldn't have read it. Yeah. Like, really? It's like, okay, now you've crossed the boundaries and now you're not willing to share the information.
Driving down the street and it looks as if they've already dropped off Bert. Because now Bert's no longer in the car. So he must live at some farm out in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And they're on their way back to whatever he wants to show her. And she's like, I still don't understand why he feels so guilty about what happened. It wasn't his fault. He didn't have anything to do with it. And Jack reminds her that guilt isn't always a rational emotion.
Yes, it surely is. And at that same time, we have another flashback. And she and Mark are in the car and it's raining.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, let's try one more time.
One more IVF. After we lost our baby, you promised me we could have another child. Can we just do one more? He sounded like he was done. And she's trying to talk him into one more. And she's like, look, I see this all the time with my patients. If you just keep trying, there's a chance. And he's like, look, you and me, our marriage is what matters. That's what's important. We wanted to have a baby, but all I ever wanted was you, and I love you, and I think that's enough. So now we're back with Jack and Mel, and she's like, do you think that death is final? And he's kind of looking at her like,
where did that
what? And she's like, for the people left behind, the pain, it feels like it never ends. And she just looks so sad, and she's looking at him, and he's looking at her, and it's raining, and she thought that moving to Virgin River away from everything that made her sad would help. It would be what she needed, would somehow free her from all that pain that she feels every day. Unfortunately, she brought her sadness with her. So now she's just sad in Virgin River and she just cries about it.
Well, that's the thing that her sister was trying to tell her. Just because you change your address doesn't mean that it doesn't follow you. Because that's the thing about memories. They don't leave you just because you want them to leave you and you move, a new part of the world or the country.
Yeah.
So Joey was trying to explain that to her. And I think she's now starting to realize
it's all starting to make sense now.
Exactly. Because as much as Joey is a pain in the butt, she's right. You can't run away from it. It's always with you. So changing your address doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm. So Jack, he's like, I'm really sorry, Mel. I wish I wish there was something I could say to make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's like her baggage to carry. We can go back to the bar. It's fine. I don't need to take you somewhere. She's like, no, it's fine. He's like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, maybe like the pinball thing, then maybe she'll feel better. Maybe he'll do something that'll make her feel better. And at this point, she'll take anything because she just feels so horrible right now.
Exactly. So now we're back at the bar.
It's nighttime.
We got Bim and Bam. I got to call them that. Mm-hmm. Sorry. So, ladies and gentlemen, when I say Bim and Bam, I mean Hope and Doc. So.
He's wondering, what is she going to do? And she's like, well, I have to fix it. I have to do what I always do. I have to fix it. It's Jack. And he's like, look, it's the last time I'm going to say, you got to let Jack handle his own business. She's like, look, I can't. I need to do what's best for Jack because she feels like his mother. She feels like she knows better. And he's just like, whatever. I can't talk this woman out of anything.
Yeah, he's shaking his head going, this is not going to end well. He knows it's not going to end well, but he can't do anything about it. And he's going to let her do what she's got to do.
Yeah.
So inside the bar now, it seems like people are starting to go home and the bar
is almost empty. It's nighttime. The rain stopped. Right. The roads are open.
And so Calvin is sitting at the bar and getting ready to leave. Our friendly neighborhood bad boy, Calvin, sees how and the thing about it is, I think Calvin picks up on the weaknesses of others. And so because he's been doing this job a long time, so he senses that Brady has some issues and he doesn't like working at this bar. So tells Brady if he wants to stop working here, hit him up. He gives Brady his number and his name on a card, hands it to Brady.
Like, hey, if you want to make some money, come talk to me.
Yeah. Right. So they ended with those two doing that because Brady is in for a quick buck.
Yeah. And he's like, I could always use another good man.
Right. And Brady doesn't want to be at the bar, as you and I are fully aware of.
He's so done with that place.
He just does not want to be there. Not only does he hate working there, he doesn't make enough money. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't make enough money. So now Calvin has offered him something that's much better.
He doesn't even know what he's offering him, but he just knows money is involved, and he's probably like, that might be good enough.
Right. So we have now Preacher is back in the office, and now he's looked up Paige and he's found her mugshot, and she's a wanted woman, and it's for kidnapping. And it's not a very pretty picture of Paige, I have to say.
No. Well, it's like a mugshot.
Right. And so that same point, he hears somebody come into the bar and he thinks it's Jack, and it's not Jack, it's Paige. And she's like, car's out. If you can help me out, that'd be great because I have half a dozen
pies.
And if we can use your refrigerator, that'd be really good. And turns around to say, who's Michelle? And at the same time, she's out the door. She hasn't heard what he said to her.
He missed his opportunity because I don't think she heard him.
Right, exactly. And then the same time, we see Jack and Mel driving up a dirt road path.
Right. And he's like, close your eyes. And she's like, seriously? And he's like, yes. Like, how can it be a surprise? I mean, there can be a surprise if your eyes are open, silly.
Right. So they drive up and it's pitch black. But he knows that if she'll see the surprise.
She'll know.
So that's why he asked her to close her eye.
And she's like, close your eyes. She's like, okay, it better be good. She's like, it better be good. And he was like, okay. First, he has to get her out of the car, which is kind of funny. He has to hold her hands to guide her because it's muddy and it's dark. And he's like, keep your eyes closed. I'm just going to carry you down one step. Here we go. And she was like, oh my God, like this is a lot. And she was, come this way. She's like, don't drop me. Calm down. He goes, turn the generator on, and she's like shaking and bouncing around like, what the heck is he doing? And just as he turns the generator on, we can see light, and he says to open her eyes. And what does she see?
Exactly. And the biggest smile. And oh my God, it's amazing.
The cabin.
Absolutely amazing. It's the cabin, which is what the cabin looked like in the picture.
In the picture. It actually matches the picture. And she was like, wait, did you do this? And he's like, well, I had some help. I mean, Ricky, occasionally Brady, and she's just like flabbergasted. He's like, do you like it? And she's like, yes. He's digging in his pocket. She's like, I can't believe it. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
And he has the biggest smile on his face.
I know. It's so sweet.
Happy.
He hands her the keys and he's like, do you want to see inside? And she's like, yes. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding?
And they walk inside and it is the most beautiful cabin ever.
I mean, it's got little decorations and little tchotchkes and
it's a one room, but it's just
clean.
amazing. And it's got new stuff and the dishwasher that works.
Yeah, she's like, I can't even believe it's the same cabin. Like, I mean,
yeah.
she's just like dumbfounded. She goes, this is incredible. And she starts walking around and he's just kind of like,
he's proud of himself.
Yeah.
He's proud.
She's like, how did you do this?
And then the fireplace.
I know. It's right in the center of the room.
Exactly. It is the most breathtaking thing ever. And she's like, it's a new bed.
And he's starting a fire as she's jumping on the bed.
And she's like, Jack.
And she's like, I can't believe this. And she kind of gets, a little, like, he's just standing there with like a little smirk on his face. And she kind of gets a little melancholy. She's like, you did this for me?
Gets this look on his face. He's like, well, I wanted you to have a fresh start, a place that you can.
He knows how hard things are. He really knows. Yeah. And she's kind of sad. I mean, she's like almost like she's gonna cry. Like, I can't even believe this.
Nobody's ever done something like that for her, except maybe her own sister. So
he's like, look, I don't know a whole lot about your story. I mean, sometimes people just need some help, but from what he could tell, she's had it pretty rough, and maybe this would help. And she's been through a lot. And she was like, yeah. If you only knew. Yeah, I have.
And he's just like, maybe this place can be a fresh start for you. Comfortable, safe.
Yeah, he says, maybe this is a place that you can call home.
Exactly.
And she just is like, it's beautiful.
Looks at him with the look of,
the long stares. He just shrugs his shoulders, and I hope you'll stick around. That's really all he wanted, is for her to stick around. And she just stares at him, and just the long stare. Mm-hmm. And then she walks right up to him without any notice and just kisses him.
And she plants a kiss on him, and a big one too.
And they just stare at each other, kind of like, are you sure this is what you want? And she kind of looks at him and they're looking, and then she kisses him again. So apparently so. I guess that's what she wants. She didn't know what she wanted, but apparently we're going to have a little more kissing, and yes, that's what she wants.
And so it ends there with the kiss and the longing in each other's eyes.
Yeah. Yes, that kiss was voted one of the favorite kisses of the whole show, the entire show.
That was the kiss that at that point, everything. I think at that point she realized how she really starts to feel for this man.
Yeah.
He really puts himself out there. That says, for him, it's like giving her flowers. This cabin was like giving her flowers, saying, I'm thinking of you.
That's a hell of a bouquet of flowers.
I know, exactly. But still, it's his way of making her feel like, I appreciate you, I care about you, and this is what I've done.
Well, and this was his way to say, I really want you to stay, and the only way you're going to stay is if you feel like you belong, if you feel like you have somewhere to be.
Yeah, something that is your own. Yes.
Right. Because if she doesn't feel, I mean, you can't feel comfortable and at home when you're living in a bed and breakfast.
Exactly. And that was not what she signed up for originally. She came here to have a home and spend a year to figure out what to do with her life. So,
well, and plus she's been establishing herself with Doc. I mean, Doc has been much more accepting. I mean, he's not on board 100%, but he's getting there. He's getting there. And now she actually has a place to live.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of her getting the rest of the way to feel comfortable. She's got a lot of baggage that she needs to work through.
That's an understatement. Yeah. Well, because everybody there, are pretty settled in their own ways, and everybody has their own story, but she's got a little more than most people.
Yeah, a little more sadness than most people, for sure.
Yeah. So that's the end of episode
8
in season 1.
Yeah, that was a good one. That's probably one of my favorite episodes of the first season. Although the next one is pretty good too. I really like the next one a lot. It's really fun.
Stay tuned, folks.
Wow. There's only 2 more left of this season, so we will have to get to it. All right. Well, until next time, Gigi, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting a little Virgin River with me.
Problem.
All right. I should say, hear you next time. Bye.